guys, Game Changers. We hope you had a Merry Christmas. It's the day after Christmas, Anthony, and
we're still celebrating.
Still celebrating. I mean, we got candy canes right here.
Love
you guys like kind of our little props here. I mean, we're following Pastor Hank's footsteps with the whole prop on set stuff.
Exactly.
But,
can never get enough kisses.
Yeah. So I had a good Christmas.
Don't be weird
man.
in the comment section.
Did you have a good Christmas?
Oh man, it was
excellent,
amazing. I love
excellent
it.
time.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh, great time with family, and it's always funny watching Pastor Hank crack jokes during Christmas. It never gets old. So definitely enjoyed that. But we hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas. We have an excellent episode, actually a 2-part episode that we're going to do here. And really what's on our heart is, this is actually, Anthony, the last episode of 2023. And then next week on the 2nd is the first episode of 2024. But, what's on our heart is we just feel that how you exit a season is how you will enter a season. And that's just going to be a 2-part episode. And so, we're going to kind of talk about really how to exit a season today. And then next week, really just discuss, how to enter a season. And Anthony, I think that's so important here as we're just days away, man, here in 2023 from it being over. And we're stepping into a new season, a new year. And I think a lot of times people are so worried about the end of the year, and how do I leave this year and join the next year? And, what do I take with me? What do I leave behind? What do I, enter into and start or think about? And I think there's all of these running questions that are going through people's heads. And so I think this is a great episode that people can really learn and understand exactly what God is saying in this season for people. Because I think that's important is, listen, we're leaving an old season behind and we're jumping into a new season.
Exactly. I'm really excited about this series that we're talking about because it's so crucial and fundamental, Pastor Matt, about just knowing and understanding that the way that you leave something is 100% how you will enter into the next. Mm-hmm. And we have to really be mindful about leaving things the right way. We have to be mindful about not bringing in certain things into that next season. We also have to be mindful about not cutting off certain things that'll sustain you for that next season. So we're going to dive into some of this. So please share this with a friend, family. This is going to be beneficial for anyone really that you can take into your life, that you can share with others for them to take into their lives. Because Pastor Matt, the number one thing that I think people deal with is that period of transition.
Yeah.
Right?
And what's my old saying? You always see people that want to have growth without growing pains.
Yes.
They don't want to grow with the growing pains. And again, everybody that is born into this world, what do they have? They have teething, they have growing pains, their joints are trying to learn how to move and how to be, strong. And so I think that's the thing in a spiritual realm or a mental, thing is people want growth without the growing pains or the hard work, which means there's going to be some hard challenges that you've got to face and go through. And I think, that just ultimately relates and alludes to your point of transition is people don't want to go through transition with challenges. And yet challenges make us better. Challenges is where we grow. And, sometimes you got to go through those hard seasons so that you learn something because wisdom comes through knowing how to battle through a challenge and come out on the other side and not be, ashamed of the journey that you went through because God brought you through that,
Exactly.
That's where we learn something. You don't learn by just being perfect all the time. You learn through mistakes and knowing how to do it right the next time. And so, even here in Proverbs 14 verse 7, it says, leave the presence of a fool or you will not discern words of knowledge. And I think that is so key is listen, ladies and gentlemen, there's some people that you got to leave back in 2023 and not bring into 2024. And I'm telling you right now, we have got to start deciphering who in our life is just an acquaintance and who is somebody that is for us. I think that's so important, Anthony, is the older I've gotten, man, I have realized the people that will ride with me till the end and those that truly understand my heart and they want to be lined accordingly with me. So, you know, the older I get, I've understood those that truly ride with me to the end and those that just want to use my time or use me for their own starting of a platform or their own starting of a opportunity. They're an opportunist, you know? And I think sometimes we have to understand that some people belong in certain areas of our life. Like these people, I keep them at work and they don't enter my personal life. These people I keep at school. They don't enter my personal life. They're just in the classroom and that's where I leave them. These people are on my sports team, but they don't enter my personal life. These people are at the gym, but they don't enter my personal life. And then you have that select, like, this is who I know is for me circle. And I think sometimes that's where people will gain more wisdom is too many times people are, you know, I picture somebody in a field, man, and they're just standing in like this big field and it's like, this year, I'm going to go north, south, east, west, and hopefully one of the directions works out. They're just grasping at whatever sign comes across, whatever opportunity on the road comes across, and they hope it works out. Well, where's God's voice in that? It's nowhere. You're going off fleshly feelings, fleshly desires at that point, and you're not putting God in the center of how you're leaving a thing or a season and entering into a new season.
Yeah, that's good. About just understanding who it is that is surrounding you and who it is that you've allowed into your life and then taking time to reevaluate. Yeah. Okay, if I'm going into this next season of new, you know, are these people that are supposed to come along with me? And Pastor Matt, I think that is very key because in our generation right now and just our culture, it's all about, you know, it's very much about being a part of something and feeling like you belong with a certain group, you know, or around a certain type of people. And what we have to understand is when you're going through a period of transition from one season into the next, a lot of times you're walking that road alone. And there's a reason for that. Because it's when we're alone that God's voice is the loudest and he can truly speak to us to impart wisdom, understanding, and also raise our level of discernment so we can take a step back and reevaluate things. And so I guess I want to say this, you know, not only is it about being mindful of who it is that's coming with you or that you're allowing to stay involved in your life in that next season, but really being mindful to allow yourself time to be alone in the presence of God during this period of transition so that you can truly hear clearly about who it is that you're supposed to be involved with, but also where you're supposed to go. I don't ever believe that your journey is meant for everyone to come with you.
That's very good. Yeah.
Most of the time, when you read through the Bible, when God told people to leave a season, leave an old thing to go to the new, who was he usually talking to? The number. It was usually just one person. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Very rarely did he ever say, bring this person with you.
It's very true, actually. Yeah.
And it's because of this thing. When God gives you your identity, and he forms you and gives you your purpose and your calling, that is for you alone. And there will come times and seasons in your life where your purpose and calling will be activated for a specific set or group of people. And I think we get caught up sometimes with having these lifelong connections when they're not supposed to be lifelong connections. Maybe sometimes, the majority of the time, it's supposed to just be season connections. Yeah. That's how long they last, is for a season. Now, to your point, there will be a select few that are lifelong connections, but really we need to change our perspective in who we're looking at from an earthly standpoint and start looking at our primary lively connection, which is through God alone.
The key word you said there was season, because, you know, Pastor Hank has always said stuff about, you know, and he showed examples about like points of references. Well, like everybody thought John the Baptist was the Messiah. He wasn't. He was a point of reference of what was coming in ultimately Jesus.
Exactly.
And so I think people need to start opening their eyes to that. And sometimes, here's the thing, your word or what you're feeling is not for everybody's eyes or ears to see and hear and have to understand. Sometimes you need to keep things internal between you and God and those that are truly close to you and understand you. Because, Anthony, I truly believe that like the older I've gotten, the more I understand who really rides with me and who is just using me to get started themselves. And that's the thing is like, you cannot be, somebody's like opportunity for them to vent and, be your, you can't be someone's pillow, man, where I'm just going to be like this pillow that you can either punch or cry on. And, and then you're doing that to other people. Like, no, you're creating bad vibes now in your year. That's going to enter into another year. If you allow that, like you can't enter a year on your soapbox. You really can't. Yeah. And get rid of the drama, get rid of all of the negativity. And I think sometimes we need to honestly look and decipher like who needs to be left in a previous season, and not just who, but what. My dad always says, look at the noun in something, who, what, when, like all of that. Like what is, it's a person, place, and thing. Correct. Is a noun.
Yep.
So who, what, when is also involved in all of this. Like you've got to look at the noun in something. It's a thing, it's a person, it's something. Okay. What is the root of what's holding you back? You've got to understand the root, because here's the thing. One thing my mom always told me growing up is like, she's seen people that maybe went on a rebellious track once in their life, but sure. Like she knew what their upbringing was. And she said, I've watched people and it's like the prodigal son. You look at the prodigal son, he was raised in a good home, but then went astray from that, right? But then guess what? He came back to, what is the old saying? He came back to his roots. When the root is dug deep inside of you, you will come back to that, because you got the prayers of other people that truly ride with you and they're close to you. But here's the thing about it. We have to start looking at what we're vibing with when we're leaving a year and going into a new year. Okay, it's like if you're leaving offended in 2023, if you're leaving, where it's just like, I give up, then you're going to join a new year with that outlook. It's like what I tell people, man, that like are looking for a job or they're looking to like leave a company. I'm like, make sure you leave that company with their blessing. Don't leave with, bitterness, issues, because you are going to take that problem and that bitterness into a new season, a new job, a new company. It's like, you ever heard the saying, like you played sports, like this person's like a cancer to the locker room or something, or sure. A cancer to the team or organization, whatever. We got to get rid of this person. Well, that new team that takes that cancer or that person is now taking on all of that drama from the previous season into a new season, a new team. And I think that's the thing, is like, we have to watch what vibe are we bringing into a new year. And vibe, you could even determine that as like, or define that as spiritual. You could say, what spiritual thing am I bringing into this new year? Is it something of hell and it's demonic? Or am I bringing something of peace and joy and a fresh season and double blessing, and not looking at things of doom and gloom, but I'm starting to see heaven open over my life? Like, you've got to ask yourself these questions when you're going into a new year, because how you leave something is how you're going to join something, man. And it's just a fact.
Yeah, that's big. You mentioned the people, places, and things.
Yeah, the noun. Throw adjectives in there too, man.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, because it kind of reminded me of a phrase that I've heard before of spiritual leeches. And if you're not careful and you're not mindful of the things that you're bringing in, and not just people, but of the things that you're connected to, like you mentioned, that can drain or suck the life out of the purpose and calling that God has for you in that next season,
100%.
Which leaves you without any kind of energy to continue to press forward. Because in that new season, we also think about this. We're like, oh, this next year is going to be great. We're not going to have any problems. Like, it's going to be bigger and better. But we have to understand and be realistic that anytime you come into a new season and transition, there is going to be a forging. There is going to be a pioneering, because you haven't been there before. So there are going to be challenges and trials, but you have to be spiritually fit spiritually strengthened to be able to walk through that transition and get into that new season. But you cannot do that if you are loaded down with things that you shouldn't have brought with you, with people that shouldn't have come with you, because they're going to drain and suck the life out of you, spiritually speaking.
Yeah.
The other part I wanted to share too is going back to why some people can come with you and why others can't. And we're not trying to, say that, oh, all people are bad, you need to just drop everyone. We're not saying that. And even in doing that, like you were saying, you never cut off a relationship.
Right.
In mean-spirited or ghosting people, right? Like, let's be...
Marilyn Hickey actually, to that point, once said, don't burn a bridge because you might actually have to cross that bridge one day, you know? And that's wisdom right there.
Exactly. But, the reason why we're saying you have to evaluate people and relationships is because inevitably God is going to drop something in your spirit for you to take into that new season. Why? Because he's activating something in you that's been dormant. But now it's going to come to fruition because it's needed in this season to do whatever it is that needs to be accomplished for the kingdom that he's called you to do. But inevitably, there will be someone who looks at you based off of who you are or who you were, and they won't accept who you are supposed to be. And they might be well-intentioned. But how many times have you heard man, I don't know if you want to do that. Are you sure that doesn't sound like you? Why would you do that when you've got this thing going for you? Yeah. Well-intentioned, right? But that could also be the very thing that keeps you from getting into where God wants you to go. So you have to be mindful of that, because that can cause you to stay in a place of complacency, and that is not where God lives. Yeah,
it's like the whole peer pressure gone, back to life now again. It's like, not just is it peer pressure, but like peer questions. And it's like, now you get those questions and you're like, I need to overanalyze this. I need to think about this. And, I look back, man, and I think about like when Jesus was on the road to Emmaus and they could not recognize him. Why? Because he died and they went back to their old ways. They went back to just being fishermen or, going back to their old life and an old season. And so they could not recognize the new of what Jesus was. Right. And I think that speaks to a lot of people in a resemblance of like, you may not see your new opportunity. You may not see the new season that God is trying to bring into your life in this 2024 season and year that's coming up, because you are living in an old shell that is not supposed to be your identity. And you're walking in what, you're wanting to do as opposed to what God is wanting you to do. And you're going off the opinions of everybody else. You're going off what you're seeing in the natural instead of what you should be feeling in the spirit. And so that's why like the disciples could not recognize Jesus. I mean, Anthony, it's 100% true. They literally could not recognize him. Right. Because they had formed like already an opinion of like, he's gone, he's dead. It was already like engraved in their brain, and Jesus had to open their spirit man back up. That's right. So then now their spirit man overtook their mind. And I think that is what would speak to so many people listening and watching is we have to start understanding that like we need to be spirit led. I've said it in our previous episodes is like, stop using our intellectual minds and start using the spirit man inside of us. We have to start being led by the spirit, because that's where, we're not looking for so many opportunities around the world and things like that. We're going off of what God is telling us to do. And there's your opportunity. There's your peace. Yes. People that live going from one thing to the next, like, it's kind of like the thing of like living paycheck to paycheck or something like that. Like they're living opportunity to opportunity. Like they're going from one thing to the next, job to job, state to state, city to city, country to country. Like, and there's never any peace. It's like their life is 100 miles an hour and they're always on the go. But when you are walking with the Lord, you're comfortable in what you're doing because you are being spirit led. And you are allowing heaven to have free reign over your life. Yes. I'm so glad you tapped into that, because I was getting ready to say something along those same lines, because right now, our generation, we are so caught up in
I call it Instagrammable moments. So we're always looking for that.
When you say that.
We're always looking for that. Yeah, but it's true, right? We're always looking for that next high, that next moment that we can capture on a carousel and a short 10-second video clip and post on Instagram and see how many likes we can get because, oh, look at my life. It's so glamorous. Yesterday, I was climbing the Sahara pyramids. Is that even in the Sahara? That's probably not. Let's try again. I was climbing the Rocky Mountains, but today
I was going to help you out there, man.
Yeah, geography was not my thing. I was climbing the Rocky Mountains yesterday, but today I'm swimming with the sharks, in Hawaii, and it's like, okay, that's cool and that's fleeting, but what has God purposed in you? And in purpose, there's roots. Mm-hmm. There's a sustaining. There is a consistency, right? So, going along those lines of, we always think about when new, doing something different, doing something that's completely out of the box, right? Well, for some of you, perhaps God is telling you in this new season, stay consistent. Keep doing what I've been calling you to do. Stay in the moment of where you are at, because I am doing something in you that's growing you. And when you come into that season, that will be the harvest and that'll be the thing that you see come to pass. So that's a word for those of you who feel like, I've been on this path for a long time. Should I try and do something new? Like Pastor Matt was saying, don't get in your head about it. This is not about your emotions, your feelings. This is not even about money. And I know people are thinking like, yeah, right. But no, really, in the Bible, it says that when Jesus, as soon as he was baptized and received the Holy Spirit, he was led by the Spirit into the wilderness. Mm-hmm. And that's how we have to be. We can only be Spirit-led. To be led by anything else would be false and not submitting our desire and our will to God. So we have to stay true to that. You cannot be you cannot be driven by money. That's the spirit of mammon. That's not God. You can't be driven by your feelings or emotions. You can't be driven by, keeping up with the Joneses. This is purely about what God has desired you to do. Why? Because he already knows the beginning from your end, right? So there is a path that he has laid you on and set you on. And as long as you stay in this path, yes, there may be challenges. Yes, it may seem dull. Yes, it may feel like you're not being used, but you have to know and understand that the character of God is that in due season, you will reap a harvest. And it's not just about material things, but it's about the things that he's planted inside of you. That seed will soon become mature, and then you'll be operating fully in your purpose. So that's a word for whoever is feeling like they're stuck.
Really good.
You are not stuck. You are exactly where God needs you to be. And Pastor Matt, one last thing I want to say on this is we have this tendency, especially as Americans, like, I got to do something. I got to grind. I got to make something happen. Well, did you know that the more that you do things and the more that you try to take your own measures into doing something, God's like this up here in heaven. He's like, well, you got it. There's no room for me to fix this or to help you. But the moment you're like, you know what, God, I'm taking my hands off the wheel. Jesus, take the wheel, right? That's when God does his best work. And I remember hearing this from a pastor who said this. He said that when it feels like you're doing nothing and you feel like nothing is happening, you feel like you're stuck, that's when God is working the most.
That's incredible. And, I really look at like in John 6.
I'm sorry, Jesus, I said Sahara Desert and the pyramids. That's so bad.
hey, it's all good. There's grace, I guess, for that, right? We just got to learn in this world to give grace, right?
I need to look in the back of the Bible for the maps is what I
need.
So,
yeah, right. Clearly you went, what's good about that though? That just shows you dug into the Bible where most people just read, like my dad says, the maps and that's where they start. So at least you read the Bible and saved the maps for later.
Jesus
but no, looking in just the few remaining minutes we have, Jesus told the 12 after the 70 left, do you want to go too? Like he literally said, do you guys want to go and join them too?
He did.
And basically he challenged them, like, where are you going to stand? Where are you going to be? Good. And, I think we got to get back to the question of what are we fishing for? What nets are we grabbing? Are we grabbing nets for just the fish, which represents fleshly desires, hobbies, things that, we want to do that benefit us? Or are we fishing, as Jesus said, for men? And, you ever remember like in an argument, people are like, nah, like that's dumb. You're just fishing with that statement, you know, and they'll like use that statement of like, you're just fishing for an argument. We've got to decipher, like, what are we fishing for? Because truthfully, like if we're not fishing for heaven's desires over our life, then we're going to keep running in the same circle. And it's just going to be a circle upon circle. You're just bringing in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. You're bringing all that junk into 2024. And if you're doing that mindset, you're stacking years upon a new year. You can't do that. You can't stack years into a new year. You've got to leave that stuff back. Now, take the good from those years and bring it into a new year, because ultimately that is a building block for a new year. But we've got to decipher what are we stacking into a new year. You can't stack the old seasons, the old dramas, the old pain, the old hurts, and throw that into a new year and just say, all right, at some point it's going to get figured out. Leave that in the past and start going into a new year in a new season with a new outlook, a new mind. Okay? Leave an old year with God's blessing and start a new year with his blessing. It's like I said earlier, if you're leaving a job, okay, you want that company's blessing as you leave. You want that company to give their best to you as you're leaving. Like, you don't want to leave where it's like, oh gosh, we're so glad we got rid of her or him, you know? It's like, you know, you don't want that. No. Because word will get out. So I want to encourage everybody in this last few remaining days, just get with the Lord on this and start building things towards your new year that are setting you up for a good 2024. And we just pray that over every single person right now. And we declare that a fresh new season comes over your life. We declare that the things of old are not going to be stacked upon each other and brought into 2024. We say the things of 2023, 2022, and years of old are gone. And we say you are stepping into a fresh new season, that your mind shifts because you are spirit-led. And so now you have a fresh mind, the mind of Christ, going into your new year and your new season. And we declare it now in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. We thank you guys for joining us for a full 2023 of PrimeTime Game Changers. We're not going anywhere though. 2024 PrimeTime Game Changers is back again. Join us next week as we start part 2 of this series, how to enter into a new season.
Also, don't forget, we have some powerful events coming up to close out 2023. Yes, 2023. Kicking off with a Game Changers in-person event, December 29th, right here at Lord of Hosts Church at 7 p.m. Central Time. Pastor Matt and I are extremely excited because we are going to pray for you. And not only that, but we're going to anoint you with oil. We are going to get greased up for Jesus because, man, there is something that is tangible in the presence of God and that oil that is going to carry you into what God has for you in 2024, because change is in the air, Pastor Matt.
Well, and there's not, honestly, many days left in the year, so why not come spend the weekend with us at Lord of Hosts Church? I mean, hey, there's still time to buy a last-minute flight or, get in your car and drive here. So Friday night here at Lord of Hosts Church, Game Changers having an amazing time together in the sanctuary, just getting the atmosphere ready for Sunday night's New Year's Eve service. Yeah, the big one that we all know and we love to, attend and get our spirits ready as we're entering into the final, just hours of 2023. So please come join us, Lord of Hosts Church. Pastors are laying hands on everybody as well and imparting something into everybody that attends the service. So we want you guys to join us at Lord of Hosts Church this coming weekend. It's going to be a powerful time, and we'll see you there. We love you all.